My name's Adele Onyango and welcome to another episode of Legally Clueless. No, seriously, I have no clue what I'm doing, but I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. Hey you, welcome to episode 150. Those are many episodes. But I'm really glad that you're listening to this one. And if this is your first time ever listening to the podcast, make sure you join our online family across our social media platforms. So that's Facebook, Instagram. You can check out the links to those pages in this episode's show notes. On Twitter, we don't have a page, but if you want to chit chat about the podcast, just use the hashtag Legally Clueless. It makes it super easy for me to stalk you. Also, check out our YouTube channel, which has the second season of our video series ongoing. In fact, we're down to the last 4 episodes. Super excited. You can watch season 2, season 1, and our tour series on our YouTube channel. Again, links to that are in the show notes. Okay, back to this episode. This is what's coming up.
And at that time, I was 2 months sober. I remember telling my boy that, I need to go to the bar now. So since that day, my drinking changed. There was drinking because I was in a way grieving. I only drank Fridays and Saturdays. So I'm on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication. Now, we didn't have the conversation with my then psychiatrist about if you're on the meds, you don't drink. I would drink Fridays and Saturdays only. I never drank, between Monday and Thursday. And also I don't drink on Sundays. But the feeling of lowness, anxiety with a hangover tends to linger for a very long time. The first 3 months were really hard because most times, again, where you're meeting people is in a bar setting. Everyone's ordering. What are you drinking? And I'm like, I'm taking a ginger ale. What do you mean you're taking a ginger ale? Why?
That is Edgar's story that's coming up a little later in this episode. He's been on the podcast before. I want to say episode 23, if I'm not wrong. Talking about childhood trauma and PTSD. But this one, I don't know. I connected with so much and so much was so insightful to me. But anyway, it's coming up a little later in this episode. This week, the song that I want you to check out, even how I discovered this artist. Anyway, so somebody that's very dear to me, whose taste in music I'm always laughing at, introduced me to this artist and now I really love her music. But I can't say it too loudly. And here I am saying it on my podcast. Anyway, her name is Lianne La Havas. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. And the song that I want you to check out is called Can't Fight. The vibe is quite right. And the lyrics, I've noticed with her writing, there are phrases that are so poetic. So I really enjoy stumbling on them as I listen to her music. But I've put a link to that song in the show notes. It's Can't Fight by Lianne La Havas. So before we get into 100 African stories, there's one thing that I wanted to share with you about boundaries. I know this is a conversation that has probably come up in your various spaces, or maybe it's just something that's lingering in your head, and it's around boundaries, specifically with family or people that are very close to you, like drawing up your boundaries, And the reason I'm sharing this is I do have a family member who I feel just uses people for money, asking for money, which is a bit uncomfortable, especially when I start to feel used and then I start to feel like you're using my sisters, that type of situation. So it has taken me a long time to get to this point, but I have drawn up very clear boundaries. It's something that I only learned how to do through therapy, where it's like, okay, you draw up your boundaries, write them down in my... For me, it has to be written. These records. No, so I write them down and then I communicate it to the person. And I found that is a very important step that sometimes maybe you don't have the energy to do. Thankfully, I've never experienced that, but it's important so that the person knows this is a boundary that you don't cross. If you cross, there's consequences. Yeah, so you set the boundaries, you communicate them, and then the hard bit is sticking to your boundaries no matter what. And you'll find that, especially when it comes to family in many African cultures, I'd say, we hardly ever have conversations about drawing up your boundaries, especially when it comes to family, because it's almost like whatever any family member, no matter how distant, whatever they do, their family, you take it. But sometimes you've got to ask yourself at what cost, you know what I mean? So you set the boundaries, communicate them, and then you stick to them. This is so important. I know many people say, protect your peace. Yes, very important. But I think even more than that is to protect your space Okay, so it could be physically what comes into your physical space. It could be the energy that you allow into your space. And you've got to be so intentional about that, because ultimately nobody's going to look out for you more than you. Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to share that because it's a conversation that I had at a point this week with my therapist. Anyway, 100 African stories. Yes, that's it. First, Edgar is one of my favorite humans. I think we've known each other for, is it 15 years or 6? Wow. Anyway, I've known him for a while. Math is shocking me. We went to Saints together. I was a year ahead of him, and we used the same school bus because I think his stop was right after my stop. And then our mothers knew each other, I think. Vaguely, I'm remembering that. Anyway, so this particular story that he shares is about quitting alcohol. At the time of this recording, he'd been sober for 2 years and 5 months. 100 African stories on Legally Clueless. Stories from Africa.
2018 October, I lost 2 friends in a span of 2 days, like 2 days apart. And how this happened was, the first lady, she's called Christine. So Christine had leukemia, and we were in a WhatsApp group with her. And she texted us on the group asking guys to go and donate blood at Nairobi Hospital. So a couple of us went the day after, donated. We went up to the wards, we saw her, and she looked seemingly good. She was not even lying in bed. I mean, she was sitting on the bed, she was in home clothes, like, she was good. She was even talking to her cousin. And we told her, yeah, we've donated, everything should be good. Let us know how things go afterwards so that we can come visit you. So I went home, and then that night I ended up in hospital again because I made the mistake of walking out after donating blood, which you're not meant to. I don't know how I forgot that, but it happened. So I landed in hospital, and it turns out I had an infection because of what I'd done. Anyway, 2 days later, I get a call that she's passed. And that hit me really hard because, I'd just seen her, literally, I'd just seen her 2 days ago. And we talked to the WhatsApp group, and she was seemingly okay. Then we broke the news down to guys on the group. And then a day after that, now to get the 2 days, a second person passed away when we're in the same group as well. So in one group, we lost 2 people. And at that time, I was 2 months sober. So I got the news. I was at a local bar just next to where I live. I was a buddy of mine, and my cousin called me crying that, this other friend of ours passed away. So I remember we left the local, we went to Karen Hospital, and when we got there, it was just chaos because of the circumstances under which she passed. So we were quite a number of us from where she lived, friends who were around the area, and came. And I remember after Karen Hospital took her, I remember telling my boy that, I need to go to the bar now. So since that day, my drinking changed. There was drinking because I was in a way grieving, and then also because I have a history with childhood trauma. So all these things resurfaced. I guess their death was a trigger, and the circumstances under which they passed, it triggered people who have lost in the past under the same circumstances, I only drank Fridays and Saturdays, but I kept realizing that along the way, I kept pushing my limits a bit more. I was always good at handling my liquor. I knew when to stop and just maintain where I was at so I don't get too drunk. But now I started pushing my limits just a bit more. And then so I'm on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication. Now, we didn't have the conversation with my then psychiatrist about if you're on the meds, you don't drink. So my medication had also just been changed. So when I drink and keep passing my limits, when I'm drunk, I'm usually a happy-go-lucky guy, full of life, dancing all over the place, socializing. And then because I know so many people, so I'm always all over the place. But now comes the day after. The day after comes with a crash. You crash totally, you have no energy, you're hungover, then you're in a very, very deep, in a low mood. So the depressive mood comes in. And then you add the fact that I also would get really anxious. So my anxiety presents itself with heart palpitations, a constant chest pain, and then tension around my throat. So that feeling would not go away until maybe 3 days. And so this went on for a year. So in June 2019, I traveled with some friends to Busia. And when we got there, it was more like a bender. It was like a bender binge. And so we got there Friday afternoon. Probably that Friday we drank till 2, 3, slept, woke up the day after. We had a funeral to attend, so we attended that. And then we were done with everything by around 3. So by 5, we started drinking again. Again, because it's Western, there's what we call the disco matanga. So, you celebrate this person's life, and it was a whole thing. We drank again, I think, till about 2. And my plan was, because Busia is really far, we leave Busia probably by 7. I was waking up at 8, which is fine. Plans change, you just readjust. So we got up, got ready. We said we left Busia probably around 10:30, and had to pass by my Uncle Shag's on the way. So we left, got to my Uncle Shag's. We had lunch. We killed another 2 hours. Now immediately we left this guy's house. Man, it poured. I could barely see 100 feet ahead of me, and this was for a journey that could between there and let's say Nairobi would have been about 4 hours. It took me 6 hours to get to Nairobi. So I got to Nairobi. You'd think I'm, tired and I should be going home, after dropping guys home. But I got home, we only dropped 1 person. And now we're 4 of us remaining in the car. And I'm like, yo guys, I don't feel like going home. And it just took one guy to say, me too. And that was it. We went to the club. Drank again until like 3 in the morning. So this time around, now when I got there, I gave my boy the keys. I told him, I've done the driving, I'm done. Now you drive me home. So we drank till 3, get home. Or rather, I'm dropped home. I don't remember much that happened. I slept, and when I woke up, it was about 10 in the morning. And I really, really I hated myself so much. I'd hardly slept. I had been to Busia and back, and I was driving. Then there's the fact that I'd also not eaten very well throughout that trip. And then I had a lot of anxiety at that time because we had a couple of things that were going on at home that I didn't like, So now you wake up and, life has slowed down. It's Monday. There's people who are going to work. You're there in bed and you're hating yourself and you're hungover. You have no energy. There's nothing going on. And you're like, nah, man, I don't like this. So this went on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I call a friend and I asked her if we can have lunch because I was going to wash the car and where we could have lunch was somewhere nearby. So we have lunch and I tell her and I take her through what happened over the weekend. But this is something that I'd been noticing over the year, since my 2 friends had passed. That I would drink Fridays and Saturdays only. I never drank, between Monday and Thursday. And also I don't drink on Sundays. But the feeling of lowness, anxiety with a hangover tends to linger for a very long time. I'm recovering on Wednesday. So I've already lost half my week. And then the thing is that when you get to, it's Wednesday morning, fine, you go through Wednesday. When you get to Thursday, you're already seeing Friday. So your hype comes in again. And then the cycle just kept going on and on and on. And didn't like this. So she told me what I could do is just take a break from drinking rather than saying you're quitting because it looks like you'll be setting up yourself for failure. And then again, in Kenya, man, you tell guys, I've quit alcohol. Nah, start tomorrow. Start next week. For today, let's just drink, and you keep postponing and postponing and postponing. So she told me just take a break. Let's see how that goes. So that break started that weekend. By the second weekend, now it was, okay, this feeling is not so bad. I get to sleep early. I get to wake up really early because I'm an early riser and I have energy when I wake up. So I'm like, okay, this is not so bad. So now this sobriety journey started, and now dealing with sobriety has been, I guess, really, really interesting. The first 3 months were really hard because most times, again, where you're meeting people is in a bar setting. Everyone's ordering. What are you drinking? And I'm like, yo, I'm taking a ginger ale. What do you mean you're taking a ginger ale? Why? Take a beer, take a double, take a shot. I'm like, no, I'm on a break. Just give me a soda. I'll be good. Or give me juice. I'll be good. And it took a while before guys, like my inner circle especially, for them to believe that I wasn't actually not drinking, and I've made this decision not to drink. So for them, at least they adjusted quick. And I thank them for that. They didn't push me to drink when I said I didn't want to drink. Now it's, again, you still have to navigate social life. So it gets to a Friday and it's so-and-so's function, and there's an after party at whatever club. When you're told, yeah, let's show up. So you go to this club and you're sober, but there is so many people in this place. So anxiety checks in. So I realize, oh, damn, this is social anxiety. Okay. And I'm too aware of my surroundings. Too aware. Nothing passes by you. You notice everyone, you notice everything. And then I'm too self-conscious. Am I dressed okay? Am I moving okay? Should I be standing? Should I be sitting? Or then when you're talking with people, you realize that, there's levels of when you go with guys who've just started drinking. And then like 2 hours in, there's now guys who are a bit happy. You're like, okay, I can still adjust to this. Then now when you move beyond tipsy, it's, oh my God, why am I here? Why am I here? I think I should just leave. So there's some people I never even told I was leaving. I'm going to the bathroom, I'm coming back. And then I get in the car and I leave. Then I text and I say, oh, so I've left. I see you, bye. And I go. For my inner circle, it's, okay, guys, I think I've had my time. I've had enough. I'm going home. And for them, before it's like, no, don't go, just stay, have fun with us. I'm like, no, I can't do this. It's nothing to do with you. This is a me problem. I just need to go. So please allow me to go. So I'd leave. And now, man, like, it's sometimes really, really hard to navigate life sober. That and I won't lie. There's the freedom, yes, you're off the alcohol and you get to wake up hangover free. That's a very good feeling. But now you're talking to a guy who has a long history of childhood trauma, which has caused me a lot of anxiety up until today. It caused me depression on and off, and with being sober, you have so much time to think. Time slows down. You're literally taking everything 1 minute at a time, sometimes even seconds at a time, and you start getting flashbacks. You start remembering something your parent did, because mine is mostly family-based. My trauma is mostly family-based. So you start remembering things maybe your mom or your dad did when, that's 1995 and you maybe never dealt with it. And then a memory just comes up. You start feeling some weird pain. So sobriety brought me, I think for the first, especially year, I got a lot of pain that I had to deal with. And you see, like for me, I'm dry, like no drugs, no booze. It's just me. And then I'm an overthinker. So you get one thought and then it flies to 10 others, and then the 10 create another 10, and then you're like, okay, then I get anxiety, even if I'm on medication, but it's not helping. Then the result guys tell you, oh no, try and meditate, try to do a breathing exercise, try and relax, try and recognize engage your 5 senses, look at your surroundings. What color do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? And I'm like, no, it's not working. I'm sorry, it's not working, because the type of anxiety I have, nah. So now it's, okay, what's my mind telling me? What's my body telling me? And you start talking about, okay, so I have this memory that has come up. What is it about? What's it trying to say? Then you see, I live in the servants' quarter for my parents' house. So I still have to deal with the same guys who've inflicted all this on me. And there's past stuff, and then there's ongoing, because I'm right there with them, so I don't have the option of, okay, let me just leave this house and go live somewhere else. At least at this point in time, I don't have that option, So it's, how do you navigate life with these guys every day and not drown? Then on the social side, friendships. So my friendships, for my inner circle, I thank them. We've been with them till today. That's good. But the other guys who I also thought I called friends, but I realized we were friends because of the plan for Friday, for Saturday, for Friday, for Saturday, that involved both of us drinking. And then they realized, okay, this guy is actually serious, he's not drinking. So you know what? We don't call him. So you find the guys who have plans, and then you don't get a call, you don't get a text. But you go social media, because social media is social media, and part of it is you check other people's lives. So you check other people's lives and you're seeing guys that are plan, and these are guys who used to call for a plan on a Friday, on a Saturday, and they've not called. So you start asking yourself a lot of questions. Is it that, or what's wrong with me? Is there something wrong? Did I make the wrong decision? Then should I start drinking again so that I can be likable and involved in certain plans? But then you ask yourself, okay, you drink, then what? The following morning, when it's me who's going through the hangover, the depression, the anxiety, the low moods, the low energy, the no appetite, the chest pains, that would be my struggle. Even if I called a friend, it's still me who'd be going through it, So I was like, okay, you know what? Maybe, I guess this is what this phase of my life will be. There's some people you shed off, There's some people who will be add-ons, there's some people who will remain. And now that adjustment also comes with a lot of thoughts, feelings. But along the way, I slowly adjusted and it's been great, get into a journey of you, and only you first. So I started paying attention to my body a little bit more, my mind more. And then I wasn't able to do a lot of therapy at the time because cash flow became a problem. But I got to build very, very good friendships where I can now talk about stuff that I go through. Because before I was always the guy present for everyone, but I was never present for myself because I didn't think that I was worthy of, me sharing my story in that sense. Because I always thought that, because my childhood trauma history is really long. I'm like, no man, this guy will just keep talking about this stuff over and over again. I don't think people want to hear for it. I didn't want to be a burden to people. So now I got a space where I'm like, okay, I guess I can talk about this stuff. And people will actually listen, people will respond, people will reaffirm me, people will reassure me, people will actually stand by me, check up on me. And now that I started receiving that, and it's very new to me because I don't get it at home. Our dynamic at home is a bit different. So I don't get it from my family, which I would love to. So now it's, okay, let me get it from my friends and telling myself that that's still enough. And I remember from back in the day, even when I was doing therapy, there's something that I probably maybe didn't share with my therapist, that a lot of the reasons why I went into therapy, two main reasons. One, of course, to sort of get to learn myself a little bit differently, get someone to show me, see through me and tell me a couple of things that I may not be seeing on my own. But the other thing was to change my family dynamic, to get my parents to love me, validate me, respect me, give me attention. The things that I needed growing up that I lacked, those are the things that I really wanted to get out of, doing this therapy thing. But then you realize in healing that sometimes it doesn't work like that. This thing you really, really want, it's burning inside you. And the person you want it from is just living the life. And they're like, yeah, this is my normal day. I wake up in the morning and I do my thing and I leave the house, I come back home and the next day is the same thing. And now it's okay. How can I do this first for myself? And then two, because you can't do life alone, or rather you shouldn't do life alone. How can I get it from, who will give me this? So my friends have come through. My friends have really, really come through. And I'm still adjusting to it because a lot of my perception of how life should be is that I should get this love from family first, friends later. Because they are on the outside. They're not in, the inner circle of family. But now I get to understand when people put the hashtag on photos, friends who become family. Now I get it because my friends have come through in such grand ways and I'm forever indebted to them. Relationships and sobriety. So I think at the time I got sober, when I just made the decision to make sober, I was seeing someone, but that ended not too long after. So now I've been single. I tried to date again. Whoever I dated at the time, briefly though, but a few things happened. Yes, now remember when I was telling you that after my two friends passed, my drinking changed because there was the grief and then there was the, resurfacing of the childhood trauma. So now I got sober and the stuff that I had been suppressing and pushing away and avoiding caught up in this relationship. Now, the thing is for me, I'm very self-aware. I'll be able to tell you that I'm off, I'm not okay. But, when you go through especially anxiety, there's a level of safety you want to feel with someone around you. And with if there's someone around you, that person, and then the environment around you, the level of safety. So for her, she had a great heart. She was a really good person. But the thing I didn't feel was that level of safety. And I struggled with how to express that to her so that she could get it and, for us guys to work on it. But again, also, sometimes it's also an individual journey, and I think that you also have to do, you have to create that for yourself as well, So, and I think I also didn't know how to navigate that. Then came about another thing, which was, now us guys trying to relate with one another at that time. So, we were good friends, as much as how we were also like trying to date and stuff, but we were really good friends. But what now I realized that for me, because that time in my life, things were still very fresh and raw, and even if time had passed, but everything was still all over the place. I had not come to terms with a lot of things. So when we were dating, it's she drinks and that was okay with me. I never had a problem with that, and it was not a thing for if she drank, it would get me to want to take a sip of whatever she's drinking to sort of feel don't know. But I think it was now, how do we relate? Because I realized that when I stopped drinking, my introverted side that I've always had came full blown, and she's social and she's bubbly and stuff, and I'm there just all mellow and like, okay, is everything okay? And I sort of used to get into my head a lot. So as much as I was with her, I'd be in my head a lot, thinking and wondering, and the most you'd get is, are you okay? Is everything okay? But beyond that, I didn't get more support that I felt I really needed. And then I think it sort of just hit me harder because also at home, I don't really get that constant sort of support, where someone not just asks if you're okay, but they are present when, you tell them that you're not okay, and they'll just be there with you all the time. So I had a chat with my therapist at the time that I was talking to, and just I don't think she's great and stuff, but I don't think she's my safe zone. So I think this needs to end. So we had a long chat about it, and eventually I made that decision to, sort of end things. It was a bit abrupt, at least I can see it from her side. It's sort of like a spot decision kind of thing. But I had a chat with her and I just told her that I think I have a lot I need to work on. And at this point in time, let me not trash you and say that you're a bad person, you're not my safe zone, and all that. Just let me just go in. Let me go do the work. Let me go put in the work, and then let me just see how that goes. So been single for a while, almost 2 years, and then now trying to date again. Oh my God. Now there's, what type of person am I looking for? And it's not just to do with looks and even personality. Personality is a big thing for sure, But then now it's relationship with alcohol. For me, that's a really, really big thing. What's your relationship with alcohol? And it's no judgment to anyone who drinks, because my friends drink. In fact, I think in my innermost circle, I'm the one who's sober. So they drink, but it's when you drink, how are you, and then how am I, how do I receive you as well? So now, I got to a point, I'm like, okay, let me see what's out there. Because at some point I was just like, no, I don't want to date, I'm doing this. And I'm like, let's see out there. And the experiences have been really interesting. You meet guys who, they can pace themselves, but then you realize there's no conversation. Then there's these guys who find there could be conversation, and they start drinking. It's an overshoot. Within 1.5 hours, it's you moved from sober to tipsy, and within 2-3 hours, they're drunk. And I'm okay. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know. So, sobriety has gotten, with the space of dating, sobriety has got me it's got me on edge. Because now I tend to think a lot. I tend to wonder, okay, am I in a safe space? I don't know. Am I presenting myself okay? And then there's the fact that, again, my trauma. So I keep, going to that. I'm like, yeah, this is a part of me. As much as I've been doing the work and I've been healing, and I think I've been doing a damn good job at it. It's part of my life story. There's me, and then there's this trauma that, so who can I talk to? My biggest thing was now, who can I talk to about this stuff? And they will still look at me the same. Because for me, I kept thinking, because of what I've gone through, and now that I'm sober, I don't think I'm desirable, So I'm like, okay, who will look at me and be like, nah, you know what? Doesn't matter what your story is. You're that guy. I still look at you like a beautiful human being who deserves all these good things. And it was always in my head that I don't think I was capable of that. So I'd look at my, people around me, whether it's friends, acquaintances, they get into spaces of dating, and they each have a story, some of the stories I know them personally. Some of they are flourishing, and then they're, just having a good time and whatnot. But now there's me, and I'm like, I don't know, can I do this? Is it really me? I don't know. So I kept, even if there were chances where I could try and date, I was like, nah, let me keep away from all this. So then there's level of now trust. So I realized now, again, before I was too trusting, but I think because of experiences that I've had in my life, so I know I have walls around me, and I'm very open about what that looks like. So it's, who will I be able to relate with, to the point where I know I'll just be, my guard will lower, go down slowly, and I'll be good to just be my really, really true self. So dating has, in that aspect, has been, you meet all kinds of people. And then the thing is, it always now stays with you. And maybe you're in a setting again where there's drinks, and then an hour in, you realize, or you ask yourself, why am I here? Why am I here? But you removed someone from their house. You can't in an hour say, I think it's time for us to go. It's no, now you have to take this in, And then there's how people talk to you when they are drinking and how they talk to you when they're sober. So it was a direct reflection of what I used to do. I knew, like, because again, me being an overthinker, generally shy, guess don't believe that, but it's true. And then now bringing anxiety, when you're drinking, all that is thrown to the side. So you will send those risky texts, you will send everything, you will be so flirtatious and whatnot. The morning after, and you're like, what did I do? What did I say? Why did I say that? And then I withdraw. So and I started realizing that, okay, so I'm talking to these people when they're drinking, everything, sending all those texts, and then when they're sober, it's a whole different vibe. But I couldn't even be mad because I've done this before, like it's not my first rodeo. I've done this before. I've been this person. And now it's like, okay, can we have that conversation of, okay, there's the way you are when you drink, there's a way when you're sober. And I mean, you drink, I'm not going to tell you not to drink, but it's now creating scenarios where we can have conversations in sober spaces. So that's now become a very big thing for me. If I'm now trying to navigate that, even now, like I'm trying to navigate that dating space, it's having intimate time in sober spaces. Because now that way, I get to see this person for, their authentic self, no booze, and then now it's, yes, I may be uncomfortable in the beginning, but now it's sit in the uncomfortable state and get comfortable at some point, because I also had a history sometimes of sabotaging stuff. When it feels like it's too good to be true, then I'm like, nah, I don't think. And it's so subconscious, you just find yourself pushing this person away and you're now seemingly very busy, I'm always in a meeting and I'm not busy. I can create the time, but later on, of course, I realized. So I had to confront that part of me when I was sober, that you can't keep sabotaging things that look good. And yes, there'll be moments where it'll get a bit uncomfortable, tense and stuff like that, but just work through it. I don't think any week passes and I don't have maybe 2 to 3 people asking me about this sober stuff. They have the mind to get sober, to want to get sober, but they don't know how to do it. Because now there's, okay, how do I know my drinking is not conducive for me anymore. It's not doing it for me. I wake up feeling worse than maybe before. And they're all acknowledging one thing. There's a level of some trauma that they've gone through, but they don't know how to now navigate this other space of being sober. For me, it takes a lot of guts, first of all, to even admit that, okay, where I've gotten with my relationship with alcohol is that I'm suppressing stuff, but those things resurface. So there's now a level of acknowledgement that this stuff is being done. The drinking is to suppress, and the morning after, definitely those thoughts, those feelings, they resurface. What I'd say, I guess, is keep challenging yourself. Keep toying with the idea that, I think I should get sober. I think it's a good idea to get sober, because with the drinking, it's just a diversion. It's just a diversion, and you'll feel good for the moment. You'll be able to not think about your problems. You probably not even cry about them. You will probably laugh, dance. If you want to get intimate with anyone, you'll do it. And it'll feel good in that moment because you're in that space. But the thing is, for me, what has worked is I always think of the day after. In fact, what has gotten me to be sober for as long as I have is thinking of the day after. The feeling of I can't control my thoughts, I can't control my feelings, and then I'm stuck in a bed. That is what got me to be like, what, I don't want to drink. And it's not to say that for the time I've been sober that I've not been tempted to drink. I have. Even when I'm in settings with guys, either way in a bar, or I'm even just at home and I'm thinking of, wow, a beer right now would be good, or a double or a shot would be really good right now. I always think of the morning after and how I know I will feel. It's not even a surprise anymore. I know how I'll feel. So I'm like, nah, can't do it. Talk to people as well. I guess talk to people who are in the space of you guys can have those deep conversations, because I feel like a lot of guys don't have that. And this is both for men and women. They don't have circles of friends where they can have conversations of, I'd like to get sober, I'd like to get off drinks, and you guys actually have a conversation about it rather than, yeah, that sounds good, I think you should try it, let me know how that goes. Me calling my friend on Wednesday, where I told her that over lunch that this is what is happening, and she just told me, Edgar, take a break. And then we talked for a long time. So we talked about family, we talked about relationships, talked about friendships. That decision to say, okay, let me do this, let me take this break on, was affirmed right there and then, because it was not, she didn't pacify the conversation, she didn't dismiss anything. She told me, go for it and do it, and I'll check in on you every now and then. So go to friends who you can have that conversation with to very, very deep levels, so you can unearth a lot of stuff that you feel you're going through. Because the temptation is that, and I think I've been seeing this really now that I'm sober, most guys will come to me when they're drinking and tell me about stuff, about toying with the idea of getting sober. But when they're sober, I not get that. It's very few people who give me that call. So for me, it's been 2 years, 5 months. And yeah, I've had an amazing group of friends who've taken me through this period. I definitely look forward to many more years. Along the way, I've gotten to meet other people who are on the same journey, even if we're in different social circles. But talking to them has really helped and got me to just be like, yeah, I think I should do this. Then when you meet guys who are who've done it for, someone comes and tells you, I've been sober 14 years. I'm like, what? What do you mean you've been sober 14 years? How is that? Then I realized, no, wait, it all started with day one. No one just woke up 14 years later, like, yeah, so I'm sober, 2 years, 5 months in, I look forward to another many more years ahead. All this means, just getting to relearn, unlearn a lot of stuff, and then relearn other things that I probably I put aside. Get to fall in love with myself. Get to accept certain sides of me that come with the fact that I'm sober. I'm not the guy who used to drink. Yes, there's parts of me that are the same, but the things that are different, Then especially navigating my introverted self. Oh man, like I realized that my social threshold is very short. I'm with guys maybe 1 hour, 2 hours, and I'm already looking for my exit. So, so when some guys get surprised that I show up maybe to a club and I'm still with them maybe beyond midnight. Edgar, are you sure it's the same guy? So I'm now trying to expand that a little bit, not be too comfortable also with just being at home again, So, and then just doing different things that I like when I'm not in a setting where guys are drinking. So whether it's working out, whether it's reading, listening to podcasts, and cleaning. Those are the 4 big things that I really do. And they keep my mind really, really occupied. And it's been great so far.
Catch more African stories in the next episode of Legally Clueless. You can watch Edgar share this story on our video series. That's on our YouTube channel. There is a link to that in the show notes. But how amazing was that story? And to really zero in on what I mean, it's like just how insightful him walking us through how sobriety affected different parts of his life, especially that relationship one. I hadn't thought about it in that way, and I was just like, wait, what? Actually, yeah, I thought you could, and it's great, and nothing else gets complicated, but it's not as straightforward. Completely agreed with him when it comes to like the disruption, especially a heavy night out brings the older you get, because you don't just snap back the way we would back in the day. I do not enjoy that. Like, it governs how much I'll drink. And even New Year's, I was the person who was like eating, taking shots, and chasing it down with tons of water, because I was like, there's no way the first day of the year I'm going to be out. No way. So I completely agree. It's exhausting. And while he was talking, I was just remembering certain things that we normalized during our heydays. I sound so old when I say that, but like in my 20s, uni years, I used to hang out with this group of guys that would party a lot, and I think the friendship had a lot of good times, but I also think it was really based on crazy nights out. So I don't think we all knew each other too well. But there's this thing that looking back, I'm just like, was that normal? We used to call it the longest yard. So you leave your house on Friday and you come back on Sunday, and you're just like drinking nonstop. In hindsight, I'm like, what the hell? What was the use? What was the reason? And it's, oof. Even just thinking about it, like my stomach is like, please let's not go back there. But there's nothing normal about doing that, you know? But I just can't get over how clearly he walked us through his sobriety journey. And in case you're listening to this and you want to connect with Edgar, in the show notes, I've put a link to his Twitter and his Instagram. Okay, speaking of links, if you want to share a story on this podcast, all you have to do is fill out the Google form in the show notes and I will get back to you. Also, you can catch this podcast on Trace Radio in Kenya. All you have to do is go to traceradio.co.ke for a list of the frequencies, which, you know, is dependent on where you are in this big, beautiful country. Yeah, catch the podcast there every Monday, Wednesday at 11 p.m. and 12 noon. And every Friday at 12 noon. Also, I have not complained about my neighbor's noises for such a long time because the apartment opposite ours became vacant abruptly. Like one morning, there was a family, and that evening, there was none. We actually think there's something wrong with that apartment because like nobody stays for long. It's wild. But friends, okay, let me be careful because last time turned out my neighbor was listening to the podcast, but I mean, they're great. Welcome to the neighborhood if you're listening, but they have a dog. They have a dog who, you know, we're in an apartment block. And we're on the 3rd floor. So they can only, you know, walk the dog every so often, which I think is like the downside of having puppies or dogs in apartment blocks. It's just, I don't know if it's good for them. I digress. So that dog has the greatest pair of nostrils because literally I could just be at the other end of the corridor making my way to the living room and it'll immediately just start like huffing and puffing and like scratching the door. And it's just like, oh my goodness. I genuinely think the solution is me just moving, but then I wouldn't have like good updates, noise updates for you. But hey, if it's not children, it's dogs. Where are we headed? Thank you so much for listening to this episode to the very end. Audio episodes go out every single Monday, so I'll catch you next week. That's it for this episode of Legally Clueless. You can share this podcast with your friends. You can keep it for yourself. I'm not judging. Just make sure you're here next week for the next episode.